I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. And certainly it is raw because some unexpected things might happen during the show. If you're listening in, you may not recognize that, but I have my new wizard cat, Maine Coon, in the background. So you may see him, you may not. He may jump on my lap, but that's what life is all about. It is very unexpected on many times, but that does not mean that we don't have great solutions to help us navigate this complex world of our own health. And so one of the challenges that I find in today's world is that with so much information out there, how do you actually choose? How do you make the best decision for yourself without spending an inordinate amount of money and getting things that don't work for you at all? You know, with all this new tech, advanced tech, high tech, and like I call it, I'm confused tech, that tech that you spend a lot of money that does absolutely nothing for you. So I don't know you personally, but I've been doing this podcast for a while. I've been having my own radio show for the last 8 years and recognizing that, you have a problem. And I don't know what that problem is because I don't know you personally, but the process by which we can navigate to some sort of resolution is pretty much the same for everyone. I mean, that's frankly how inventions are made. All these crazy inventions that have absolutely dramatically changed our lives go through the same process of discernment. And so that's what this show is all about. So we're not actually promoting a particular product or hyper promoting a person, well, except maybe this occasion I would love to, because the gentleman that I'm talking with today is just an amazing individual. I've known him for so many years. He's been revolutionary in our understanding about fats, and hopefully he'll share with us a little bit about that later on. But it's all about role playing so that you can see yourself in a particular problem and then come to some sort of resolution. So one of my guests will start off presenting with a particular problem and we'll be guided to some form of resolution. And that's exactly what we need in our world today, is because with that information, we need a professional guide who really knows their stuff so that we can come up with that better decision. So I'd like to start right away with first introducing my guests. They will do that themselves. We will jump into this role play for about six or 10 minutes, and then we'll specifically unpack, some of the distinctions or the action steps that you can take towards that resolution. So Udo and your son Ty, which is a pleasure and an honor for me to have you on my show because of what you've done. Introduce yourselves, and then we'll dive into that role play.
Okay, you go.
You want to go first? Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on your show. It's exciting to be here. I'm Ty Erasmus, 32-year veteran of the fitness industry. I specialize in fitness nutrition specifically, customizing programs for athletes, actors, and people like your viewers. And yeah, just excited to be here and do this role playing with you today.
Great. Udo.
All right. Well, my story is a little longer. I was born during the Second World War and was a refugee kid when I was 2. We were being chased by the communists in tanks and trucks. We were on dirt roads in horse-drawn hay wagons, no military presence. There were dead people and horses in the ditches. And the Allies, we like to think of them as the good guys, they were shooting at us. They were using the refugees as target practice, shooting at us from planes. And so my mother felt it was winter. She said she had 6 kids with her. They were 6 years and younger. And she decided it was safer to get off the roads to go through the fields. But she could only take 2 kids with her. So she had to leave 4 kids behind. Imagine a mother having to make that kind of a decision. I mean, holy smoke. And eventually we got reunited. But I have been obsessed with, first of all, I never felt safe as a kid. And I never knew what I could trust because everything was so all over the place. So I was always looking for how things work, because when you know how things work, you get predictability, and that gives you safety. And the other thing was that I looked at people and said, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony, because I saw so much argument and people were so intense about it, and they were doing really stupid things. And what they argued about was so trivial to me as a 6-year-old. I said, man, there must be a way to that for people to live in harmony. And this little cocky voice said, I'm going to find out how, being 6 years old, not knowing how complicated everything is. And that's been my driver, like always in science, and then bioscience, and then psychology, and then medicine. Only lasted a year because I wanted to know about health, and they only teach about disease. And then I ended up in biochemistry and genetics, and then I got poisoned, and I became really interested in health. And out of that came really studying health on my own and discovering the damage done to oils, our most sensitive nutrients, and that they should be made with health in mind. And so I developed a method for making oils with health in mind. And out of that came flaxseed oil. And then I developed a blend that's better balanced. And that's sort of like a, and right now I'm working on turning total health into a teachable field based in nature and human nature, and to turn human nature into a teachable field. So
I love that, and we definitely want to hear a lot more about that, certainly when we unpack it, and certainly on further podcasts or even my radio show, because what you have to offer is super important. So thank you for that introduction.
Oh yeah, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So let's go into the role play. So I guess Ty, you're going to start off, and so we have about 6 minutes for that, and Udo will guide you. I'm sure he's a great your dad.
Yeah, my son was going to have a problem, and Dad's going to fix it.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah, like sure.
All right.
Well, he's no longer a teen, Udo. So once they hit young adulthood, we actually start listening to our dads. So
yeah, we were talking about that before, and one of the answer after 20 is you need to talk to yourself, your life, and your God.
There you go.
I can't help you.
All right.
What's your problem?
Okay, so my problem is I think I'll go with a festive theme.
Okay.
We've just been celebrating the holidays. People are starting to feel a little lethargic. They're feeling kind of heavy, tired, maybe a little bit, maybe even hungover. And so their gut health is suffering a little bit. Their energy is low. And what can I do to improve my gut health and digestion and have some more energy so that I can start fulfilling some of these 2024 New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, okay. So the first thing you have to do is you have to stop taking your nutrition advice from Santa Claus.
Okay.
Because he has an eating disorder, clearly.
Okay.
And so
tell me more.
Yeah. And you should eat more like the reindeer, because they don't seem to have that problem.
Okay.
The second thing is you should not get your fitness advice from Santa Claus either.
Okay.
He should pull the sleigh and the reindeer should ride.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the third thing is stop doing what you're doing that gets you the problem.
Good point. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I give you an example. For instance, when we never ate desserts when I was a kid, that was just not a thing in our family. And but at Christmas, we had gingerbread cookies and other stuff, sweet stuff. And I would love to eat it because it tastes so good, right? And every Christmas, without fail, for the first 35 years of my life, I would get a major snot-nosed cold after Christmas. And it wasn't until I became 35 that I actually looked at it and said, how is that happening? And I realized that it had something to do with sugar, because sugar knocks down your immune system for 5 to 8 hours. Teaspoon of sugar, makes the medicine go down, but knocks down your immune system for 5 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And when your immune system gets knocked down, and you're also vitamin D deficient because you're in North Country and the sun isn't shining.
Yeah, good point.
Right? So we call it vitamin D deficiency season.
Yeah.
Right, not cold and flu season.
Yeah.
And when I stopped eating the cookies, I decided not to eat those cookies anymore. And since then, since I was 35, I'm 81 now. Since that time, I have not had a snot-nosed cold after Christmas ever again.
Wow.
So literally just an insight.
Yeah.
It's always like, seems for me, it always starts with an insight, and then it leads to a change in behavior. And I think so from that perspective, you know better than I do what you ate over Christmas that got you feeling, you know, how you're feeling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hungover and out of sorts.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
or
also said
overeating
leave some
or-
booze in the bottle.
Yeah.
That was one of my other advices.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you know what you're doing, and where you know what in what you're doing over the holidays is aligned with what you're feeling.
Hmm.
Like there's a cause for what you're dealing with now.
Yeah.
And what is exactly, and you've literally, I do, you have to look at what is the cause, and then you say, okay, I'll make that little change. I'm not eating the gingerbread cookies.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you know that better than I do. You know, I mean, I have a fallback that I always go to that, you know, I can't help you with your problem. You need to talk to yourself, your life, and your God. Right?
Yeah.
Why? Because you're living in your space. And what happens in your space, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or it's coming at you. So you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Right.
And so there's a certain kind of stillness maybe that is helpful, a little self-examination in that stillness.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some responsibility.
And then maybe some insight will come from that.
Yeah.
And I find when I have an insight on something, I find putting it in action becomes very easy because it's my insight.
Right.
I own it.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody telling me,
Yeah.
you know, you shouldn't eat the cookies, because you say, yes, I will, or no, I won't.
Yeah.
Or you'll say yes to me, but when my back is turned, you do
Right.
it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, but when you take action from your own insight, it's like you own that. And because you own it, it's like, because sometimes you get this pop, wow, I never knew that. Wow, that's really cool. And then the action is just a simple follow through. And then you're not tempted because you have an insight that holds that habit for you, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So that's generally speaking, I will always go back to that, not do this or don't do that, and drink more water, and you know, don't get oil and plastic. You know, there's lots of things like that. But I think the sitting with yourself and what you're feeling, and finding the insight that leads to a change will last a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't actually solved your problem. I've basically given it back to you.
Yeah, I would consider that a tool.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider that a tool.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
And you can do a lot of things with a tool that you can't do with a piece of advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I think that's a wrap, unless there's anything else you want to share, Ty or Udo.
I think that was good. I think that was perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first question I'd like to ask first, Ty, what was that for you? What was that all about for you?
You mean the answer that I received?
No, the problem that you presented with. Why that problem? What's your experience? What's that context?
Yeah. So that comes from the general feedback I get from clients that I work with at this time of the year. You know, they do one of two things. They're either super festive, and or I find I have two types. They're either very festive, or they want like a checklist of things to do, right. and like a map to follow through the holidays. And so for the ones that are, you know, over indulgent in their festivities, so to speak, you know, generally they're cleaning up the mess in January. And so what I like about that, and what I found helpful, was, you know, as I mentioned, it's a tool that you can use, and it's not just applicable to food, but it can be applicable to behavior. It can be applicable to all kinds of things. So that having that tool in your toolbox, and really paying more attention to what's going on internally versus the things that are drawing you externally, such as food or alcohol, or desserts of some sort, or whatever that is for that individual. um, I think it just has a lot of value in making those, because there's a split second when you make that decision whether you're going to have that drink or you're going to eat that cookie, or whatever that is. There's a split second moment where you can decide whether you're going to do that or not, and that tool helps you to get in touch with that.
Right. I
Choice.
love that part.
Choice.
Udo, what was that for you?
Well, I had no idea I was going to go there. We didn't talk about what we were going to talk, what was going to be the problem. So this wasn't rehearsed. But it feels like the best advice I've ever given to a specific problem that like that.
Yeah.
But again, it was spontaneous. Like, talk about raw. That was 100% raw.
Well, I think you're spot on. And just a brief story of mine. I'm the youngest of three boys, and
Oh no,
next
I'm the second.
you're the second. Oh, you're the problem child. That was my middle brother.
No, I was the youngest of four.
Oh, youngest of four. Okay, four. So, but anyhow, my two brothers, when I was a young teenager, or no, actually I was like 10 years old. I wasn't even a teenager. My brothers were out having fun, doing all the cool stuff, going to the parties and all that kind of thing. And I wasn't. I wasn't allowed. I was apparently too young, according to my parents. And then I would watch this commercial of Coca-Cola. And so you would see this frame of this Volkswagen buggy or bug, overlooking this beautiful landscape and these, cool teenagers, and they're saying, it's the real thing. And for me,
Yeah.
it was a huge anchor of being cool, and it's the real thing. And forever it stayed with me. And so forever I was drinking Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of the same experience that you had, except a lot faster, was that after just taking one sip, I would feel terrible. But because there was such a huge anchor in it, I would always love to drink Coca-Cola until one day I really committed that insight, just as you said. And then and once in a while I still get hit, for I want some Coke, and I try it and I just take one sip and it's done. And so yes, you're right. I mean, our body has this incredible capacity to give us signals that we like to ignore, obviously, and that's why so many people are sick. What 60% of adults are obese and are diabetic or pre-diabetic, or some people think it's all the same. But you're right. It is about that personal accountability and taking action oneself versus getting a list of things that are not going to work. So I'd like to hand over the mic to you guys. What else do you want people to know, to think, to consider? Because that's, again, the purpose of this, show, is to give people also additional insights as to what they can do things differently, how they can do things differently.
All right. I can go in lots of different directions with this one. How about, do you want to talk about the exercise component, or
Well,
the
basically in context of what we talked about today, more in
specific
context of
to,
what we talked about today
yeah,
and the
what to add to
experience.
that?
Yeah.
I think to add to that, you know, being in a quiet environment, somewhere where you're not distracted from your phone or your TV or your computer, where you can have that conversation with yourself, and be open to that conversation, to wherever it goes, if that makes any sense, and really explore that, um, the experience that you have, or even the emotions that are associated with maybe those choices, those food choices, or choices of drink, to really fully understand yourself, and maybe even to get clarity of that moment when where you have that choice, that that moment where you either decide not to, and even envision you already doing it. I think is powerful for someone, and then to practice it, or to test it even. I think that's what I think the next step would be. It is to then use that tool and hone it, basically.
Udo, what else would you like to add?
Well, I can tell you that nothing in my life worked until I began to take time for stillness. Because you can be so busy thinking or so busy doing stuff that you never ever get a sense of getting yourself grounded. Who are you? What are you? I don't mean who are you, I mean what are you? What is life? What does it feel like to be alive? You can't do that. You can't get to being if you're too busy doing, because being starts where doing stops, right?
Right.
And so so taking the time to be with myself in a place where I'm not addicted to doing, because we tend to get addicted to doing in our culture. And I get to a quiet place, and in that quiet place, everything becomes possible. Anything is possible from stillness. Everything originates in stillness. And everything that I do that has value has come out of insights that float out of that stillness. It's actually not different from Einstein. He says, what he says, 99 times I think and get nothing. And then one day I stop thinking, I float in silence, and the answer comes to me. I mean, I didn't do that because he said that, but when I read it, I said, yeah, that's exactly how it works for me. Right. And so I can't overemphasize, especially the world as crazy it is, as fast as it's going, and it seems to be going faster and faster, right? I can't overemphasize how super important it is becoming for us to actually stop, sit, get quiet, see how still we can become, see how deep we can go into that stillness, see how long we can hang out there. Breathe calmly, slowly, lightly. And what do we find in that stillness? And when we get into that kind of stillness, any habit we want to change, how to change it comes to us. Anything we want to create will come to us, because it's already there. It's already in the place where all the potential is, in that stillness. It's already there. We don't have to figure it out in our head. We can just read it out of our heart. And so for me, I think that's, for this issue that we were talking about, but pretty much any issue in life, whether it's in relationship or it's about what you want to do for your living, what contribution you want to make, start with time. Alone, voluntary solitude, stillness, quietness, peace, and go from there. And there's a current of peace in human beings that is better than motivational speeches. It is quieter, but it's more powerful. And that's where I would, if I could, 8 billion people, if I could convince 8 billion people to do that every day, that would be my best contribution to the planet.
Well, they've actually done studies when 10% of any particular community meditates, the whole energy in that community changes, and that
Yep.
is so true. And that the fact of the matter is, we are so connected, and you're absolutely right. With all the noise out there, obviously the apple hasn't fallen very far from the tree, because your son is saying the same thing. And the truth is that
Yeah, he's stealing my best lines.
yeah, I hear you.
But he's coming up with them himself, because I never told him those lines.
Or maybe you're getting them from him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How about that?
Unknowingly. Yeah, some of my best teachers are my own kids, and it's just
Also, yeah.
pretty amazing. But one thing I did want to share is that with so much noise out there, and such a high need to belong, and to have, and to be doing, yes, people do forget. And I would imagine that for a lot of people, it's actually very difficult to be still when meditation and stillness and mindfulness is so powerful. But one thing I can share with those out there who are listening who want an alternative, and this is a story that I heard about Warren Buffett meeting Bill Gates, that pivoted Bill Gates's life with this simple exercise. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but this is what I've heard. And then the exercise is simply this: every once a week, what he would do is find 45 minutes of his time and shut everything down, all the phones, all the computers, everything else, have a blank piece of paper, and just basically answer the question: what am I missing? What is it that I don't see? What is it that I don't know? And so for those that need some instruction, so a list of things to do, right, Ty? This is also a great alternative because it's in that moment where we just ask the question, the unconscious mind is going to deliver. And that's also what Einstein did, is allowing the unconscious mind, without all the noise, so obviously in stillness, come up with the solutions to the questions that we've been asking ourselves. And that is really important because our body knows, as much as it may seem crazy for people, the language of the body, our emotions, our feelings, it's the vibrations that are happening. There's a communication network that is beyond anybody's understanding today, that all these 70 trillion cells are collaborating, cooperating together, for survival, for best function. And when function isn't right, then it's going to reveal itself in thoughts and ideas. And if we're just occupied with all the noise around us, we're not going to hear a thing. So you guys are absolutely spot on. For any of those listeners out there, you want to change your life, also change your identity, because that will make the real difference. Any further thoughts from either of you?
Yeah, just one. When I talk to a lot of people who say I can't do meditation, it's boring. Why is it boring? Well, because you're addicted to doing. You've been doing so much, so you're sitting through withdrawal symptoms. Then they say it's boring. Okay, well, fall in love with boredom, because boredom. Notice how much peace there is in boredom, and recognize that when you feel bored, you're going in the right direction. You got to go a little bit deeper, because when you go a little bit deeper, there's more there. But you have to go through it's like the Twilight Zone, right? You have to go through the boredom, because you're literally, and the point of it is actually to go into that boredom and discover the peace and the unconditional love that are your nature in that boredom.
And that's in that unconditional love where everything happens. And it's not something that just said, it's something that you have to experience, or you're not going to
And
experience
it's
it.
it's an experience. It's an experience of your own nature,
Yeah.
your own deepest nature, unconditional love, unconditional empowering love.
Ty, any additional thoughts?
How cool is that? Every human being, your nature is unconditional empowering love. Wow. Right?
Spot on.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that that's really where it all has to start from. And then once you've made that essentially connection with yourself, or a deeper connection with yourself, then you can plan, your success strategy from there.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's got to start.
And I think, for the listener to understand, and I love your excitement, Udo, it really comes from the insight that you have yourself to know about that unconditional love. It's not something that somebody tells you. It's something that you're feeling and experiencing. And it's from the insights that you get.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, full transparency, I've heard of this unconditional love all these years, but it wasn't truly until a year ago that I fully was able to embrace it. As much as I was very loving and have a big heart for others, it was still with judgment. It was still with, conditions, right? Because, as you mentioned earlier on, Udo, we're protecting ourselves. But once you release the need to protect yourself, and then without judgment, then it's unconditional, and it's a game changer.
Yeah. And it's not mental. It's not mental or emotional. It's beyond that. It's deeper than that. It's not physical either. It's deeper than that. It's actually in the energy that is life. That energy is unconditional empowering love, and it's the master in your body because it weighs nothing and runs everything. Right?
Wow.
People think I'm this body. You're not the body, actually, because if you say to people whose body is that, they say it's my body. Well, if I say this is my body, I've just told you that I'm the owner of the body. I'm not the body. These are my teeth. This is my butt. These are my feet. This is my stomach. Right? My. These are my property. I'm the owner of the property. Well, who owns this property? Well, life owns the property. So I am actually life in my essential nature. And this is true for every human being too, right?
Wow.
And that life is unconditional empowering love. And that life is formless and indestructible. And when it comes time for the separation between life and body, then actually we go with the life because that's our nature, and the body goes in the ground.
Yep.
And so even death is not a problem from that deeper place.
Wow. That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
Udo, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way, udoerasmus.com, but I'm easy to find. If you punch in UDO on Google, I come up on the first page because there are not a lot of people named Udo anywhere. And so I have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and what else am I on? LinkedIn.
And you got a great book, by the way.
I have a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill that you can get on Amazon.
Must read. Must read.
I have a little book called The Book on Total Sexy Health, the 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. That's on, you can get that on Amazon as well.
I'll have to order that one right away. Ty, how do people get a hold of you? And any final comments from you?
Yep, you can visit me at tyerasmus.com, so TAIERASMUS.com, or myfit2win.com.
I love it. Well, gentlemen, go ahead.
MyFit2Win.
Yep, myfit2win.com.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's a great honor to have father and son. I can't wait to have my son with me one day on this platform. But he's really hard to get a hold of, so maybe that'll never happen. Who knows? But this podcast is critically important for those out there who are wondering and scratching their heads. Well, this is weird. This is a different format, and yes, on purpose, because the purpose here is to actually have our inner voices, or the conversations that we must have that we normally are not having, and to be able to witness yourself in this challenge and actually see that there are people out there that have figured it out, and there's definite hope and clarity as to what the next step is. And ultimately, it's the distinctions that this show brings. And today, both of you have brought out so many very clear distinctions that people need to know about. But one of which is, the insight needs to come from within. If things are not working, it's maybe because you've gotten a watch list of things that you think are the right things to do, but truly, it's that insight, it's the inner voice, it's the pain, it's the lever that says, I need to do things differently, and this is why, and this is how. So once again, Udo and Ty, thank you so much for joining me today. I am Dr. Bart Rademaker. You want to say something?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say, I had some doubts about this format. I got to say, it's a way lot better than I thought it would be. So this is really cool. What you're doing is really cool.
I really appreciate that. Coming from you means a lot, because you're such an exemplar for all of us with so much wisdom. You're actually the kind of person I love to have. But truthfully, I love to get everybody on this platform, because everybody has so much wisdom to share. But I've always looked up to you so much for so many years, and still do, by the way. It sounded like I don't anymore, but I do. And I hope to get more people with distinction on there. But the truth is, and with all my shows, everybody has great magic, everybody has great wisdom, and whatever resonates with the listener at any given time is what matters. And so thank you for that. So as I wrap it up, once again, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. And I normally don't have my cats to spoil the show, but for me, my wizard cat is super cool, and so I let him do what he wants because he's the wizard. We will be back.